Hey smugglings, what is happening? This is going to be a video that is a response to Tony Fighter 2, who did an awesome video where he talked about 5 games that would have blown his mind as a child. And that's what I'm going to be discussing here. I'm going to be discussing 5 games that would have blown my mind as a child. And it would have been something that I never would have dreamt could happen. And I love that idea. It's a great video. Tony Fighter 2 is a great channel. And I really appreciate the fact that he tagged me in this particular topic, and that's what I'm going to discuss here. So I've got my 5 games that really would have amazed me to understand that they could have happened when I was a child. So I'm going to go through the top 5. So at number 5 we've got Silent Hill 2 Remake. So that is the remake of this particular classic here, Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill 2 is, as many of you know, my favourite game of all time. A game that is absolutely essential if you're someone that is interested in horror remotely. I believe this is a game that is one of the greatest games of all time, and a game that has one of the best stories in gaming, and it's a game that feels like very few other games. Even compared to entries in the series, it feels very unique, and it is a standalone entry in Silent Hill. So I absolutely love Silent Hill 2, the original game. And I was playing this as a child. I shouldn't have been, don't tell my parents. But I was playing this as a child, and I always thought that Silent Hill was niche, and it is niche to an extent. And I find that a lot of gamers don't realise how niche Silent Hill is, because they realise that Silent Hill 2 is a series, and it's a game that people know of, and they think that it's got an audience. But the reality is that Silent Hill as a series has sold less than Resident Evil would make in one game. I think the entirety of Silent Hill as a series has sold 10 million copies, and Resident Evil can just make that in its sleep. It doesn't even have to exert itself that much to make that amount of money for a new Resident Evil game that comes out. So the fact that we got the remake for this classic, for this game that is held so dear to Smog, is awesome, really great. And it's great that this series got revitalized in that way, and this promise for the series now that's reached a new audience, and now it has sold more than it had previously, and I think it's on a really great track. And the thing that really excited me about it is that I never would have thought this particular game got remade, and I'm really happy that it did. It is very awesome. So I'm very happy that Silent Hill got its remake, and we got promise for subsequent entries in the series. And the reason why I didn't think it'd get a remake is because of the fact that it's not a massive series. It's not a game that everyone has played. It's not a game that everyone demands a remake for. But it got one, and it was brilliant, and I'm so happy that we did. And as a Silent Hill fan, it makes me really happy. And that's a game I would have dreamt of, because I thought that I was seeing the series on its way out, and I didn't think I'd see another entry in the series at a certain point, but we got it. There's a lot of promise in the series now, and I'm really happy about that. So that is Silent Hill 2 Remake at number 5. Number 4, we've got The Last of Us Part 2. And this may seem like a bit of an odd pick as a game that you would have dreamt of as a child. You wanted a sequel to a game you never knew you loved as a child. How could that be? But the reality is that The Last of Us Part 2 is possibly the most cinematic game I've ever played. The most immersive game I've ever played. It is a game that is so involving, and it takes so many risks within the narrative that it tells, and it's the closest companion you get to a feature film. If you'd have a film that is of the highest quality, I think The Last of Us Part 2 would be comparable to that film in terms of quality. And I think the sophistication of the design, the narrative, the characters, the story, it's got a level of filmic quality that no other game has, I believe. I don't think I've game has come close to this game in terms of cinematic equality, and I think it's a really amazing, spectacular, one of the most ambitious and risky narratives in gaming that they achieved from my perspective. And I think it's a wonderful, amazing story, and one that is going to stand the test of time as one of the masterpieces in gaming. And that's what I would have dreamt of when I was a child. I would have dreamt of a game that had that level of filmic quality to it, and this game definitely does have that in spades, and it's a masterpiece in that regard. So I absolutely love Last of Us Part 2, another one of my favourite games of all time. That is a game I would have dreamt of as a child, a game that is of that cinematic quality, and this game definitely is that. So that is my pick at number 4, is The Last of Us Part 2. Number 3 is Astrobot. That's right, Astrobot. And the reason I pick Astrobot is because I saw as a child that Nintendo was having a lot of crossovers with all the various characters. You'd have Super Smash Brothers and Mario Kart, and you'd see this crossover of all these different characters. And I was also a PlayStation fan as a child, and I was thinking that PlayStation didn't have near the amount of iconic characters that Nintendo had. And despite my love for PlayStation, I didn't think they could compare in that regard. And then with the release of Astrobot, suddenly PlayStation has 30 years of history. And I was proved wrong by this game. I recently played Astrobot, and I was proved totally wrong by this game, because I always wanted a game where you'd have a lot of PlayStation characters interacting with each other in the same space. And to an extent, that is what this is. You have these different bots that are versions of these different characters, and they are interacting with each other. And it's this massive celebration of PlayStation, and it feels organic, and it doesn't feel like it was done for the sake of competing with Super Smash Brothers or another Nintendo franchise. It truly does feel like it is earned, and it's an amazing platformer, really wonderful game. And I always would have dreamt of a game that celebrated the heritage of PlayStation and did it justice, and Astrobot definitely does that. So that's why it's got to be on here at number 3. Number 2. This is The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Now, this is a game that was included on Tony Fighter 2's list, and it's such a great pick. It was an amazing choice, and I had to include it here because Elder Scrolls V Skyrim is the full realization of a high fantasy game. It is every fan of Tolkien's dream, because you have this massive open world in a high fantasy setting, and you are able to explore freely, do whatever you want, fight whoever you want, drink whatever you want, join whatever association you want. You can do literally anything in this game, and it's such a wonderful game, and the excitement for this game at the time of its release was palpable. I remember all my friends and all my mates just really poring over the magazines in the official PlayStation magazines, where you see the screenshots of the game, and we all really wanted this game to come out. We could not wait for Christmas, and I remember getting it on my Xbox 360, believe it or not, at the time, an Xbox 360, and had the game, and it was absolutely incredible. And some of the lines are burned into my memory when you first start the game. So, you're finally awake. And it just is etched into my memory, that opening scene, because I played that scene so many times trying to pick different characters. And this game is iconic. It's obviously a game that almost everyone has played. It's such a celebrated masterpiece of high fantasy role playing, and really amazing game. And I think it's my favorite Bethesda game, I'd say. And really did love Skyrim. What an amazing game. incredible achievement, and had to include it on this list. So Skyrim is the game I would have dreamt of. I would have dreamt of a game that was a massive open world for a high fantasy setting, and that is definitely what this is. So I had to include Skyrim on this list. So that is the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim at number 2. Now, number 1, the coveted number 1 spot on Smoggy's list of the 5 games that would have blown my mind as a child. So at number 1, we have Hogwarts Legacy. That's right, Hogwarts Legacy, the action RPG from Avalanche that was released in 2023. I played it and loved it, and as a massive Harry Potter fan, since the day he could read 2 goddamn pages of the Philosopher's Stone, I always fantasized about a massive open world Harry Potter game where you could be in Hogwarts, you could explore the grounds, you could be a wizard. You're a wizard, Smuggy. And that finally happened with this game. You're a wizard, Smuggy. And I was able to fulfill that fantasy I had as a child, where you could be a wizard in the wizarding world in Harry Potter. Harry Potter is one of my favorite things ever. Harry Potter is so important to me. Love the books, love J.K. Rowling's writing. Absolutely fantastic. Some of the best stuff ever. And I wanted to include that at number 1 because Hogwarts Legacy really made me inhabit the role of a wizard at Hogwarts and did an amazing job. And I absolutely adore Hogwarts Legacy. Fantastic game. And I can't wait to see what they do with subsequent follow-ups for that particular game, as I think they have a lot of promise, and I really can't wait to see what Avalanche do next with that particular game. So those are my picks for the 5 games that would blow my mind as a child. Guys, hope you enjoyed. Really enjoyed going through those, and it's a good thought exercise, quite honestly. And really love doing it. And I will do a tag for 2 particular channels. I'm going to do my good mate Sunny Gaming 2020 and Donald Mackerel Gaming. You guys don't have to do this, but I'd really be interested to hear if you do want to do it. But that is entirely up to you, and it'd be great to hear your picks. So I'm going to ask for you guys to share your 5 games that would have blown your mind as a child. Those 5 games that you never could have thought would happen, but did happen at some point. And I think that's a really great idea. So thank you, Tony Fighter 2, for tagging me. Really appreciate that. That's my first tag on YouTube, as far as I'm aware. It could have been hidden somewhere, but I have not heard of a tag on YouTube before this. So I really appreciate you doing that, Tony. And I will see you soon, guys. You guys take care, and I will see you soon.